Hello, it's June 2022, and as I've been sitting here reflecting on my previous videos, specifically the trial transcripts and how the two former officers not only contradicted themselves, but they contradicted each other. And the lack of evidence and everything else is amazing. If this was a case between, for example, two commoners, civilians, it would have never gone the way it had. But as I said before, when you're dealing with governing bodies, they never want to be held accountable. But that's not the point of this video. I've been thinking about, for example, the abuse of authority on many levels with my story, which ties in, for example, with abuse of power. They're more or less interchangeable, maybe with the odd wording that's different, and I'm simplifying everything here. And I've also been thinking about the abusive process that had taken place. Now, abusive process is when, for example, someone uses the courts wrongfully. Now, there's malicious prosecution, which is a deliberate misuse of the courts, and my case actually entails both. Now, when you look at, for example, people like Julian Assange, and interestingly, as I've been sitting here thinking, an article had popped up about Julian Assange, and there was a very interesting point that was made that got my attention. How this person, who was basically the middleman, and I've highlighted these online celebrities for truthers and freedom fighters and stuff, and they're just a middleman. You have to keep in mind that the person behind releasing all the information about the United States military and everything else is free. But everyone's focusing on the middleman and making the middleman out to be the hero, whereas the person who actually released the information, obtained it, and wanted somewhere, a platform or someone to present it, nothing. And a lot of people, as I said again, focus on the middleman as the hero, and they're just simply sharing what they know, whether it be independent evidence or someone's testimony. And at times we even see a lot of fake stuff being shared, but I digress. And when you look at Julian Assange, how he's had his liberties taken away from him, having to at least appear. I know there's controversy about, is he legitimate? Is everything real? Is it all staged? I'm not getting into that. I'm just going to be addressing the official narratives. And his freedom has been taken away from him for over a decade. And when you look at, for example, what I've been going through, and I did everything that I could to avoid everything. And my whole objective, well, part of my whole objective with meeting with the female was to avoid the very thing I ended up having to deal with, and that's false accusations in courts. But the false accusations ended up being by the two former officers, and then everything just snowballed from there. And when you look at, say, for example, someone like Julian Assange, who didn't appear to try to avoid anything, but that's a different tangent. So I tried to avoid everything, and I played by the rules. I stretched the rules. I thought outside the box, and that's what made it so difficult for them to finally convict me. After I fired my first two lawyers and I took over the criminal trial, I didn't make it very easy at all. And that resulted in them even going as far as to tampering with trial transcripts, rewriting everything, omitting things, ignoring arguments and blatantly making things up. And I've lost just over 10 years of my liberties. Now, someone would say, well, with a conviction, you serve your time and then you have a conviction on your record for X amount of years, apply for a pardon and so forth. Well, I'm not able to afford a pardon, even though that has been reduced. But the way that I'm living and everything that I've been going through and the stress that everyone in my life has had to deal with, be burdened with, as I would call it. They wouldn't call it that. They don't. It's a, not only is it a punishment that I don't deserve. I remember my fourth lawyer saying that, well, they have their pound of flesh from you, go lick your wounds and get on with your life. Well, I didn't owe them a pound of flesh to begin with. In fact, they owe me a pound of flesh, plus what they've taken from me, so that's 2 pounds of flesh, but I digress, and that's metaphorically speaking. But for all these years, how I've been living, stress and my health deteriorating, and the injuries, which is a life sentence in itself. It's not just a matter of being convicted, wrongfully convicted, and then unjustly having to go to jail, and then just pick up the pieces. What they've put me through, the city of Calgary, is insanity. And when is it going to end? The city of Calgary has and still has the opportunity to correct their wrongs, but they refuse to. And as I've told all the different courts that I had to deal with and everyone involved, there's nothing stopping me from continuing to share the injustice and things that I know, and more. There's more to be shared. So I just sitting here again, just thinking about everything that I've went through, and part of the injustice that has been imposed on me is a life sentence, and 10 years plus and counting that I'm living as I am, based on false narratives, false accusations. Just lost for words. Just tired of being cold and hungry all the time and worrying about fuel for my vehicle and what I'm going to do, and trying to create opportunities. And recently I've tried again, see where that goes. And there's a lot of people who think that they're doing the right thing, who cause unnecessary hardship on themselves, and people take note of them. A lot of people think it's glamorous to stand up for example, truth and justice, and it's not. But I digress again. So I'm just sharing some thoughts, some reflection. Take what you will from this. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.
Listen to this and write it down if you can't remember it. You're never going to outgrow warfare. You simply must learn to fight. I hear people say to me, oh, when is it going to get easier? When you die.